families, help pay for, again, the educational expenses. So what is financial aid? What types are there? So basically there's the need-based aid, which looks at the student and the family's financial eligibility, looking at the situation of the family to determine their need-based aid, or looking at the non-need-based aid where families' finances do not come into view for applications for the financial aid. It could be merit, looking at GPA, athletic scores, and different things like that. Again, it's also separated out into the self-help aid or gift aid. So the gift aid, that's the good stuff. That's the scholarships, that's the grants, that's the free money that does not need to be paid back to anyone. Self-help aid, again, there are loans in the student's name. It could be in the parent's name. That is something, again, that needs to be paid back to a lender or an organization. Students may be eligible to work, federal work study, the state work study. So again, students would be finding a job either on campus or near the campus, off campus. And again, they would be either earning a paycheck to help pay for their expenses while they're in school, or some schools actually require working, so they don't necessarily see the paychecks, but again, it just goes towards their student account to pay for, again, any other expenses the student may have for tuition, room and board, etc. So where does all these fundings come from? The federal government, again, is the largest a source of financial aid. College, university that your students are applying to, again, have their various amounts of funding. The state of California, again, has a Cal grant. They have middle class scholarships. They have different awards that we will go into later. Private sources, there are other outside scholarship searches. Employers, again, parents may have positions at various jobs where they may have benefits for scholarships or other opportunities to help the student, again, find funding. For example, these are some of the federal aid programs for this current academic year. So for the students that are already at college, university, community colleges, or trade schools, they may be seeing these awards, the federal Pell Grant, a maximum up to about $7,300, Federal Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant. The financial aid is all about acronyms. So FSCOG, because we are tired of saying Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, every other award offer. There's a Teach Grant for some schools that for students that are considering to become teachers after they graduate with their bachelor's degree. Again, federal work study or state work study programs varies by school. It could be on or off campus employment. The direct student loans, these are federal loans that are in the student's name, and those amounts vary from academic level. And then also there is the Federal Plus loan, which is a Parent Plus loan. So that is a loan in the parent's name to also, again, help the students with any other educational expenses not covered by some of these other federal programs. California, again, also has their different Cal Grant awards. They vary in amount from different school segments. The community college has a very different amount. The California State University has a different amount because of their tuition schedule and fees. University of California, again, private schools. such as, St. Mary's, University of San Francisco. There are some for-profit schools that may be eligible for the Cal grant. So those are there too. Typically, Cal grants can be for 4 years if a student is going to a 4-year school. If they're going to a community college, they can also place some of that hold so they can keep the majority of funding for when they do attend a 4-year school. The state of California and the California Student Aid Commission is attempting a Cal grant reform for this year. In the past, there have been several types of Cal grants. As you can see, there were 8 awards: high school entitlement Cal grant A and B, community college entitlement Cal grant A and B, transfer entitlement Cal grant A and B, and the competitive Cal grant A and B. They are hoping to condense that into 2 fewer programs: Cal Grant 2 for community college, and then Cal Grant 4 for 4-year colleges and universities. This is all dependent on the state budget. We should be having a better idea of if this will come to be, probably again with the draft of the governor's budget for next year. Again, the state legislature has to sign that budget, hopefully at the end of June. In the past, we have waited until October, so we shall see, we shall hope that this will come to pass. Middle class scholarship, these are for students that did not qualify for the Cal grant, but are attending either a University of California campus or a Cal State University or one of the California Community College bachelor's degree program. Students would be notified of if they're eligible for these middle class scholarships, typically in the summer, because at that time, again, most students will be making their decision of which school they will be attending in the fall as of May 1st. Most schools require the deposit, the enrollment form at that time. So typically in June or July, the campuses, the CSUs, the UC or community colleges will be submitting their rosters of students back to the California Student Aid Commission to see then if the students are eligible for the middle class scholarship. If there are students aren't considering either a 2-year or 4-year, again, vocational, occupational, or technical programs, students are eligible to receive financial aid, federal financial aid, and state financial aid. So they would just need to double check with those particular organizations to see what is required other than a federal application or the state application if they have other forms that need to be completed. So those are what kind of financial aid is out there. This is how students will need to apply to receive financial aid. So there's 2 major applications: the federal, the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid, or the California DREAM Act application. The federal application for the free application for federal student aid, the FAFSA, again, is for students that do have a social security number, are US citizens. The California DREAM Act application are for students that may not have a social security number, AB 540 students, or again, students who are currently undocumented. In order to be eligible for the Cal grant, typically there is a GPA verification form, but I do believe that the high school counselors have already submitted those GPAs. Is that correct, Christine, Kathy?
Those were handled, I believe, by our district office. So
perfect,
yes.
Perfect. So California Student Aid Commission should already have the GPAs of all graduating seniors, and they are currently waiting for either the FAFSA from the student or the California DREAM Act application to be completed by the student. They will match that information with the GPA to see if the students are eligible to receive any one of those Cal grants. In addition to some of those applications, the FAFSA or the California Dream Act application. Some other private schools may require the CSS profile. Now, this is only for maybe 200 private institutions across the country. The FAFSA and the California Dream Act application, those are free. The CSS profile does charge for, again, for each college after the first one to receive this supplemental application. The FAFSA and the Dream Act application, in theory, this year for the 2024-25 academic year, the U.S. Department of Education Federal Student Aid reduced the amount of questions of over 100 to, in theory, less than 40. But the CSS profile, I do believe, is up to about 400 questions. So they ask a lot more information than what is required on the FAFSA or the California Dream Act application. There's another program, which is the WUI, which is the Western Undergraduate Education Exchange, where students who are residents of California want to go out of state to about a dozen other Western states. If they apply to those schools that participate in the Western Undergraduate Exchange, those students would not be paying the full non-resident tuition. They would be paying about 50% more of what the in-state students would be paying for those particular states. So this is the website. You want to look to see which schools participate. You can definitely log on to there. Again, these are the states that participate. So if a student from California is really interested in University of Alaska, they can participate in the WUI, or go somewhere warmer, Hawaii, they can also participate there. So again, going to this website, you can see which schools participate in the program, and then also have the students contact the schools themselves to see how they can participate in this program. So again, going through how the schools determine what financial aid to offer to the students. First, they take the cost of attendance, which is different at every campus. They take the results from either the FAFSA or the California Dream Act application, which is known as the Student Aid Index, SAI. They subtract out other financial aid that is received, other scholarships outside of the school, university, college, and they come up with this financial need number. That number is what the schools, colleges, universities use to determine how to offer the free money, the scholarships or the grants, subsidized loans, or federal work study. So the cost of attendance, again, is different at each campus. Tuition and fees, for example, Cal State University, again, they have a set fee schedule, but private schools will have different fees, tuition and fees. Housing and food definitely differs from campus to campus. Housing fees in Berkeley will differ from housing fees in Boise, Idaho. The next three, books and supplies, transportation, and miscellaneous expenses, those are estimates because every school wants to have the families have a better understanding of what each academic year would cost to attend that particular school. So just as an FYI, these cost of attendance items typically increase an average of 8% a year. So again, that's just for parents to have an understanding of what can happen the next year. We would love to have tuition stay the same, but again, rising costs, and schools need to make sure that they're providing what they can, the best that they can for the students at their campuses. So as I mentioned, the FAFSA has changed for this current academic year. As Ms. Avila was saying, that it opened later than what has been in the past. Hopefully for this coming year, for the next academic year, for 2025, 2026, the FAFSA is predicted to be open October 1st in order to complete for the next following year. As I mentioned, we went from 108 questions to 46. They removed housing choices, selective service for young men. They do still have to do that. That is a federal requirement, but that will not be on the FAFSA. Drug conviction, taxable income. Again, on this FAFSA, they now made it able for students to list up to 20 colleges, universities to receive the information. In the past, it was only 10. So students would have to list the first 10, wait till it processes. After 3 days or so, then the students would need to go back online to the FAFSA, delete the 10, add the next 10, and submit, so on. So this year, it's starting off with 20. And if a student has 25 colleges they want to have received the information, it's going to be a bit delayed to go back online to the FAFSA or the California DREAM Act application to make those corrections. So please, please, please have your students put the top 20 schools that they're looking at for this first FAFSA. There's some they took out questions, but they added some questions. These are optional questions. This is only for the U.S. Department of Education, federal student aid, to collect statistics of students, how they're, who's applying. Some of you parents may have done FAFSAs for older students. Again, those are some of the changes that are no types of untaxed income no longer reported. Again, if students were receiving money to help pay for any educational expense outside of the family, again, that had to been reported, so that's no longer the case. Gifts to students, the 529s, again, is going to be looked differently. Child support received is now considered an asset instead of income. There's also changes to assets. In the past, small businesses and family farms were excluded from the FAFSA. Going forward now, all of this is now being reported on the FAFSA. Christine, you did mention this is being recorded and where it was going to be posted for everyone that didn't join us at the very beginning.
Yes, this is being recorded. We will be posting this on the Cal High Counselors YouTube, hopefully by tomorrow, if not by the end of the week at the latest. So we also do have the Q&A open. The chat is disabled, so if you have any questions, the Q&A is available for any generally broader questions. If you have anything that's a little bit more specific to you and your family, we will be having a workshop, and Ms. Nichols can speak a little bit more about that at the end of our presentation. Thanks.
And also this PowerPoint will be also available.
Yes.
On the website too. So parents, you can go back and look at this at your leisure. And then also if you have questions again at a later date, you can send those through. Who needs to complete the FAFSA? Which parent? Again, if it's a married couple who filed married joint, then only one parent needs to sign the FAFSA along with the student. Divorced or separated, it's the parent that provides the most support, not where the student lived for the prior year. So again, that's a discussion. And again, if the parent has remarried as of the date the FAFSA was signed by both the student and parent, again, step parent information must be reported on the FAFSA. So a huge change in this current FAFSA and DREAM Act application is that the student and a parent are now considered contributors. Student starts the FAFSA, signs it, will then need to submit the information for a parent, parent's name, social security number, email, and invite the parent to sign the FAFSA and contribute the information. So a lot different than it was in the past. Another big thing is that the FAFSA requires the student and parent to consent to have their federal tax information transferred onto the FAFSA from the IRS. If one of the parties does not provide consent, then the FAFSA will not be processed and the student will not be offered any financial aid from the federal government or from the state of California. Okay. Some schools may not be able to even offer their own scholarships or grants because the FAFSA or the DREAM Act application was not submitted or provided consent. So please, please, please make sure that you follow the steps for the contributors. If the student starts the FAFSA, invites the parent to be the parent contributor, make sure that you have your FSA ID. And again, that's the account username and a password. It's helpful if you have that days prior to completing the FAFSA. It makes the process go a little bit smoother. Well, as smooth as we hope it can be at this time. You may have heard a lot of the news stories of all the glitches in the matrix. It is true. Again, so the government, U.S. Department of Education is still trying to fix the things and still see what the process is and where it's being held up. So you might talk to some friends saying they did complete the FAFSA, it was fine, not a problem. And then you may hear from others that there were still some issues. So again, I ask on all of the financial aid administrators from all the colleges and universities for your patience, and that we're grateful for you for all of your patience as we go through this. So when the FAFSA or the DREAM Act application is actually submitted, students will eventually receive a submission summary or a DREAM Act application summary. Students would get the Cal Grant notifications by email as long as there was a valid email provided. Schools will be sending out financial aid offers. It's out there that it may not happen until April. So we will see. We're working together with all the different divisions on our campuses to, again, make these announcements, make sure our families know where we're at in the system with the financial aid offers. As I mentioned earlier, the middle class scholarship notifications typically go out in the summer once students have decided and submitted their deposit enrollment forms to either the UC campus, CSUs, or the California community colleges. In the fall term, students, or prior to the start of the fall term, students and families will start to see the statements, the invoices, what's due for the tuition if they're living on campus, the housing and meal plan charges, and then they will see what their pending aid that could be applied to those charges. Again, it will not be dispersed or applied to the student's account. If there are missing documents, if, for example, either the federal application, the FAFSA, or the DREAM Act application were selected for verification, That's a process where the schools need to collect tax returns, income tax transcript, W-2s to compare and verify to either the FAFSA or the DREAM Act application. Once all that is done, again, it is first applied to the charges on the billing statement. Should there be any extra funds, then that's over and above what the charges are, then those funds are given to the students, either in the form of a check or direct deposit for them to use during the semester for, again, books or supplies, if they're living off campus, to budget out for rent. So again, web grants for students. Students should be able to log on to the California Student Aid Commission CSAC's web grants for students. Students can confirm that CSAC received the GPA from the high school. Again, students can update their contact information. Once graduated, they are required to verify that they did graduate from high school. Colleges, schools, universities will not be able to request those Cal Grant funds until the students complete the verification of high school graduation. Again, they're confirming that they're going to the particular college. If, again, they decide to go to community college first, they can place the funds on hold, the award on hold, so that they can save the majority of the funds for once they go to a 4-year school that may be charging a higher tuition rate. So when you look at the FAFSA, once it's open, or the California DREAM Act application, it's very basic, like these are how many folks are in the home, how many are going to college. This is our income from 2022, because that's the income tax return they're looking for. If there's any changes or special circumstances, there is nowhere on the FAFSA or the DREAM Act application to submit that information. There is on the college, the CSS profile, again, because that's 400 questions versus the 40 or so questions on the FAFSA or DREAM Act. So if you have any of these special circumstances, unusual circumstances, again, there's a change in income currently than what was reported in 2022 taxes, you need to contact the schools directly, sooner rather than later. So even if you have already submitted the FAFSA, but again, what was reported on the 22 taxes is not what happened in the 23 income tax return year, or again, going forward in 2024, that information needs to be submitted and sent to the college or university financial aid office, and they may require other documents, supporting documents for the changes or the special circumstances. Again, this is a list of who else can help. The studentaid.gov, that's the federal website, csac.ca.gov, that's a California Student Aid Commission regarding the Cal Grant, the middle class scholarship. The financial aid office at the colleges, universities that your students are looking to attend in the fall. If you are doing a tour on campus, again, stop into the financial aid office, say hi, bring cookies, chocolate, flowers. No, just kidding. Just grab their business cards. So that way you have an actual person to send any of your questions to. Your high school college counselors, full of information. All the colleges that come and give them all the information regarding their particular schools, any financial aid, other outside scholarships. Again, wichi.edu/tuition savings. WUI, that's again, the Western University Exchange Program. Fastweb.com, scholarships.com. Those are the largest national databases for outside scholarships. I'm sure the college counselors also have other scholarship opportunities. Parents, VA, benefits, CalVet, thenaid.org. Again, these are all really, really good free websites that you would find different information. Again, going to federalstudentaid.gov, there's all kinds of resources, preparing for college, even for younger siblings. They can take a look at this too, so they're prepared for when they start looking at colleges and thinking about financial aid in the future. Again, as I mentioned before, if any of the contributors do not provide consent to have the tax information transmitted, even if there isn't any tax information to be submitted, if the student did not file an income tax return, you still need to provide consent. If no consent is provided, again, the FAFSA will not be processed and no financial aid will be offered. Just some more information about, again, the contributor parent, divorced or separated parent, not living with spouse, who needs to file the FAFSA, submit the income information. This is just a very short screen. There's a lot more pages behind this, but I knew we weren't going to have enough time to go through that this evening. Hopefully, the next session, I believe, for the hands-on that will be discussed after this presentation will be have folks that will be able to help and answer some of these other questions for you. Again, married student parent, not married, filing joint tax information. This, again, information, the PowerPoint will be available to you on the website, hopefully after tomorrow, so that you can take a look at this, read the fine print, and then also ask the questions later on. This is my campus, my beautiful campus at Cal Maritime. Under the bridge, we are getting a new training ship. So students do have to go on that ship. They go international, they go to Guam, they come back to go to Hawaii. They go on the ship for a few months in the summer. They train, they take classes, but most of the time they are on this campus. So for questions, that is my email address where you can submit questions directly to me. If you hear something that you don't understand from other financial aid offices, please feel free to send me your questions at this email. Most of the answers that you will get from financial aid administrators regarding financial aid questions, the two major answers will be, it depends, because of all the different items and variables. And also, I don't know. When is the FAFSA going to be fixed? I don't know. When are they going to fix signature pages? I don't know. Unfortunately, we're all just waiting for all of the different information that will be provided from the U.S. Department of Education, Federal Student Aid, as well as the California Student Aid Commission. They are waiting for some of those answers as well, too. So 35 minutes, I think we were good. So we even have more time for any questions that you have received, or if you want to talk about the next program that you are going to be having for financial aid.
All right. So we do have the Q&A open. I've answered a couple questions in that space, but there was one that I wanted to ask you, Cora. We had a parent asking, what is the impact of the 529 on FAFSA?
The impact of the 529, again, this year, the question is different from the prior years. In prior years, every 529 that a parent holds for all of the children had to be reported on the FAFSA as assets. That has now changed, that only the 529 for the student on this application will now be reported on the FAFSA. So the federal government on the FAFSA and the California DREAM Act application will not be looking to try and use the 529s from the other students to help this student. You have decided, no, that's not right. Let's look only at the 529 for this particular student.
All right. Looking for, yes, families should be filling out the 2024-2025 FAFSA form. It should be on the FAFSA website, but as I mentioned in one of the other answers in the Q&A, they did do a soft launch. And so there are moments where the FAFSA page has turned off the application for the FAFSA for the 24-25 school year. But if you check back either later in the day, even sometimes in a few minutes, they do come back on live.
So there are 2 applications that are still live on the studentaid.gov website. There's the FAFSA for the 2023-2024 academic year, which is this academic year. So it's for the students currently in college, university, trade school, community colleges, versus the 2024-25 FAFSA, which, as we said, soft launched on December 31st, but went down pretty much every other minute on that day and January 1st as well too. So again, we ask for your grace and patience as we all work through and navigate through this new FAFSA and DREAM Act applications.
Okay, we have a couple hands up. I'll go ahead and unmute a parent, and then I'll go to the next parent. So give me just a moment. All right. Did that work? Sridevi Malati, I believe you should be live on the mic.
Yeah, thank you for taking my question. So is there any maximum income, that disqualifies a child to apply for FAFSA, or any income people can apply for FAFSA?
Angelina Jolie can do a FAFSA. Anyone can do a FAFSA. Again, depending on the income levels of the family, how many students are in the family, all of these variables are taken into consideration when determining who's eligible for federal aid or state aid or scholarships and grants that are need-based, again, looking at the income and assets of the family. So there may be an income ceiling for either the Cal Grant or the middle class scholarship that if you exceed that, then the student is not eligible for any of those awards. But again, students would be eligible to receive a federal loan, unsubsidized loan, and parents who wish to take out the Federal Parent Plus loan will still need to complete the FAFSA first before looking to see if they would like to use that Federal Parent Plus loan to help the student address any of the expenses, educational expenses of tuition, room and board, or any other indirect costs of the books, transportation costs, or miscellaneous expenses.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Let's see who else had their hand up. I have Satish Krishnan. You are on the mic. Satish? Okay, let's try Bina Bhatt.
Thank you, Christine. Yes, okay. Talk as well. Are you on, Satish?
Go ahead, Bina.
Okay, all right. I had a very quick question. I just wanted to find out if it's possible to add colleges after you've submitted the FAFSA form.
Yes, it will be possible Once the FAFSA has been processed and the summary is sent to the student, in the past years, it was after 3 days of processing, students would be able to get the results back, go back onto the FAFSA, and then add more colleges. Because of this change, there is a delay in students receiving the summary submission. I, for example, did my FAFSA on the 5th of January, but I cannot go back on to make any corrections or add any other schools until the U.S. Department of Education Federal Student Aid is able to process the FAFSA applications and then send the summary to the student, and then also send the information to the schools. So once it has been processed, there will be a time where students can make corrections to the FAFSA and add schools.
Okay, so then do they get a revised summary after that?
Yes, they do.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
One of the things we're trying to encourage our students to do is to not be applying to way more than 20 schools. It's delaying a decision. And so, you know, as parents, it's really good to encourage them to carefully think what schools we're putting in that top 20, just as Cora had said. What are your top 20 that you honestly, realistically, and financially can do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kathy. All right, we have Satish. Let's try again if you can go on the mic. Satish, are you there? Okay, let's try Sandra Hu. Sandra, are you there?
Hello, can you hear
Hi.
me?
Yes.
Hi. Hi, thank you, Christine. I have a question because my son sent me an invitation from the FAFSA to fill out some income information. After I did it, I was having trouble to provide the signature. But anyways, I told my son that I have finished my part. So I thought there's going to be extra steps before the form is completed because I haven't even signed it. But my son told me that he already submitted it successfully. So I'm quite confused. Is that one effective or non-effective?
I'm going to have to say both answers if it depends, and I don't know. There has been a lot of talk on various forums by different financial aid administrators that one parent of one family did the same process as another family. That FAFSA was submitted properly. Everything was good. They got an estimated student, an SAI, versus the other family was somehow stuck. So we're still all working through that information. All schools know of all of these issues and are not going to penalize students that if the FAFSA isn't perfect and submitted completely. Again, the federal government, U.S. Department of Education, Federal Student Aid is still working through a lot of things, including the website being open, first of all, at certain times, as well as all of these glitches of some parents just get caught in the circle of submit, not submit, keep submitting. It's grayed out, so you can't even click on anything. So we are hoping shortly. They are threatening to have this done by the end of the month. We're all crossing our fingers. So again, we appreciate your patience, and we will all work through this together. You could always call the Federal Student Aid FAFSA folks. Hopefully they will pick up the phone because they too are being inundated with all of the parents across the country. So, but we're all hoping that this will be fixed sooner rather than later. So that students will not have a much longer delay in waiting for any financial aid offers.
Got you. So is there a way that we or my son who fill out the application to know that his application is successfully went through? Would he get a confirmation or would he receive a summary or something to ensure
In theory,
okay.
in theory, if it is complete, then a summary would be sent. If it's not complete,
Okay.
they may get another notification that something is missing, that there's something wrong. Please go back online to the FAFSA. So we're hoping that information
Okay.
should be sent out at the end of the month from the U.S. Department of Education Federal Student Aid. But again, we are all crossing fingers, doing FAFSA dances, offering adult beverages to the FAFSA deities to hopefully get this done. So we're all working together on that.
Got you. So I know there is a crucial step to consent to provide
Correct.
the tax form.
Mhm.
So once I click
Correct.
that, once I mark that, it's completed. My signature doesn't, my missing a signature would not, negate that selection, right?
That's correct. It will not complete.
Oh, it's not complete. So
It
which
was not.
means,
It has to be both consent provided and signed.
okay, so there is an issue. Gotcha. Okay. I'll see. Yeah, I'll talk to my son to see what he sees.
Absolutely.
Alrighty.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I did want to ask a couple questions that were in the Q&A. I have a parent asking if your child will be using the 9/11 GI Bill. Will that be considered as an asset on the FAFSA, or is that considered unreported untaxed income?
It will be considered neither. It will be considered as other financial aid by the financial aid offices. So as far as any of the VA benefits, again, the school will have to certify that the student is eligible because they are attending that school. They also would have to report their enrollment status, either full-time, three-quarter time, half-time, so that then the Veterans Administration would be able to determine the amount of the benefit that the student would be able to receive at the particular school. And then it may possibly change the student's financial aid because it is considered other financial aid and not reported as income or assets on the FAFSA or DREAM Act application.
Okay, perfect. And I have another question. What is the eligibility for the Cal Grant GPA, and how would families get an update on whether or not their student qualifies?
It is a minimum 2.0 GPA for Cal Grant A or Cal Grant B. They will again match the GPA as submitted by the school to the California Student Aid Commission, and then also matched to the FAFSA or the California DREAM Act application. There is a certain income ceiling and a certain asset ceiling, but it also depends on the number of family members. So there is not one particular number that we can share. Once the California Student Aid Commission is able to receive the information from the FAFSA or the DREAM Act application, they will then send out an email to the student telling them what their eligibility is for either the Cal Grant A, either a UC, CSU, community college, or a private university. So it all will be listed on that notification from the California Student Aid Commission.
Okay, thank you. Another question, does the date of when you turn in the 24-25 FAFSA change the amount of financial aid you receive, such as does the money run out if you are late?
It depends on the school. A lot of schools in the past did have a priority date to complete the FAFSA or the DREAM Act application, but because of this FAFSA delay and DREAM Act application delay, all the schools are scrambling to see how they're going to use either a priority date or not have a priority date. Initially, the California Student Aid Commission always had a March 2nd deadline to complete the FAFSA or the DREAM Act application and have the GPA submitted. That has now been extended to April 2nd because of this application delay.
Thank you. I am going to go back to the mics. I have Jiayin. I am allowing your mic.
All right. Hey, sorry. That's my wife. Actually, my wife's name. My name is Lou. I'm just asking the question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, great. Yeah. So my daughter applied for an early decision school, and the school already sent her the acceptance, and that decision needs to be made whether she is going to accept that by Jan 5th. That was before we were able to fill out the FAFSA. So we filled out the FAFSA as soon as possible. I think it was early January, maybe January 3rd or 4th. But then, we're basically needed to accept the offer without knowing whether we're going to get any federal financial aids. My question to you is, that's in the past. My question is, from your experience, how long should we expect it takes for the federal financial aid to come out? And will we hear from the school in terms of the financial aid package based on FAFSA, or will we hear from a different organization?
You should talk to that school directly, because admission decisions that are either early action or early admission, again, they do have a contract even prior to offering any financial aid. But because of this delay, you may be able to request an extension of submitting that enrollment form. So I highly suggest that you contact that school in person or by email or both, so that one, you have it in writing in email, or again, you talk to a certain person, you get their business card, you get their name, so that you have, again, documentation of that. Everyone knows that the FAFSA, the DREAM Act application, is very delayed. How does this app, impact our early action, early decision students?
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. We have our next on the mic, Rajiv Verma. Rajiv?
Hello. Yes,
Hi.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hi. So following up on an earlier question about asset declaration, my question was, does FAFSA require parents' retirement account disclosure, and also maybe equity in other assets such as real estate?
The FAFSA or the California DREAM Act application, you will not report any retirement accounts. No IRAs, no KIOs, no 403Bs. You will not report the equity of your primary home. You will have to report the equity of everything else: rental properties, investment properties, vacation homes. The equity of those will be considered as assets on the FAFSA.
Thank you. That was useful information.
Okay.
Thank you. So we do have time for a couple more questions. So let's see if I can get us to speed through this and make sure everyone's questions are answered. Let's go with Tom.
Hi. So we had a question. We had to fill out the form based on the school that he got accepted to. They insisted that we fill that form out. Unfortunately, the form that was available was the 23-24, and we should have probably been filling out the 24-5. So what do we do now? Do we just now fill out the 24-5 form if it becomes available?
Yes, you have to do the 24-25 FAFSA to receive financial aid for the upcoming fall term. You may want to contact
So
the
what
school.
will happen? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. What will happen to that other form? It just doesn't exist, or
It
they won't
exists for this
consider it?
current academic. It exists for this current academic year, but the school will not be able to use it because your student wasn't admitted for this current academic year.
Got it. Okay, so then we can fill out the 4-5 and.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely. Yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
all right. Thank you so much.
You can also, contact the school and say, we did the 23-24 on accident. We did our best and to meet if there was a priority date to complete the FAFSA, and work with the school that says we're working on the 24-25 FAFSA, knowing all of the issues that everyone is experiencing.
So interestingly enough, in the meantime, the school has actually sent its own form to us and asked us to fill it out pending the FAFSA, which is, I didn't know that was the case, but then it happened, but I'm worried about the other schools now. So thank you for answering that. Makes me feel better.
Absolutely. I mean, go and look on the websites of all those other schools. They may also have announcements there too, or just sending them an email or calling them, and they will have some answers.
Perfect. Let's go with our next question. We have Sindhuja. Let's go ahead and allow your mic. Sindhuja, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Hi.
Hi, thank you. Well, I just joined. I have a quick question regarding a merit scholarship. Or if my daughter is going to just apply for merit scholarship, does she still have to fill out FAFSA?
I highly suggest filling out the FAFSA so that schools can determine if she's eligible for any other aid other than the merit. Again, the FAFSA and the DREAM Act application, those are free applications. If you feel that it wasn't necessary for the following years, you definitely do not need to complete the FAFSA. But in my experience, even if a student wasn't eligible for any need-based aid at the beginning of the year, there may have been some unusual circumstances, changes in income, that I was able to make those adjustments on the FAFSA and then made the student eligible for other need-based aid. So again, no harm, no foul in completing the FAFSA for the first time.
So it is recommended but not mandatory.
I highly recommend it. You'd have to check with the school to see if they're requiring it, even if the student is doing or is only looking at merit scholarships.
Understood. Okay. So just another following question regarding the same thing. Does it have any like, I don't know, if the student wants to get a job and the the school, does FAFSA is like does it have any priorities or does it have any benefits if she has a FAFSA in terms of the internship or I don't know, anything in the school?
So the FAFSA would see if the student is eligible for the federal work study program, which again, the school is then reimbursed 75% of the wages. But there will be other positions on campus that are work study optional, where it does not require that award.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you so much.
Of course, thank you. And I believe we have time for one more question if we can squeeze that in. We have one more hand up. Kavita, go ahead.
We have submitted the CSS profile and FAFSA. CSS profile is shown as submitted and FAFSA is not showing up. So does it have any timelines?
Again, the FAFSA, the U.S. Department of Education Federal Student Aid is not releasing any of the summaries. They have not processed yet the applications because of the new format. They are hoping to release those summaries at the end of the month. everyone again is crossing their fingers that it will work properly. I just read an article on NPR that the U.S. Department of Education Federal Student Aid recognizes that they made a 1.8 billion oopsie on the FAFSA formulas. So they're looking to see, well, do we release the information to the schools now, which is incorrect, and then submit and then send out the correct information, or just hold? So we're all waiting for that.
Okay, sounds good. One last question. So do we need to apply specifically merit scholarship, or the school considers based on the GPA?
It
I can answer
depends.
that one too.
Yeah, it depends. You would have to contact the school.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then we just had one more question in the Q&A regarding the net price calculators. If they have tried the calculator and they don't see any financial aid help, is this an indicator of what they might get through completing the FAFSA?
I would say no, because the net price calculator was based on the old formulas for the expected family contribution result. And I'm not sure if everyone was up on the SAI, which is the new result of the FAFSA. So again, it's also looking at older matrices of how to award financial aid by the different schools. So that was a huge guesstimate. I would still complete the FAFSA and hope the schools get that information.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. Thank you for submitting your questions.
Christine, I've got a quickie in here.
Yeah, go
I
ahead,
need to
Kathy.
promote the fact, if you are absolutely flustered with some of this stuff, on March the 19th, we are having a live workshop. It will be from 3 to 4:30 at Cal High. That is a Tuesday afternoon. We have representatives from DVC coming in to actually go through the information with you. They're all using the same FAFSA form, regardless if it's a 4-year or 2-year. The other thing that's attached to that, if you do have a student that is going to DVC, yes, they could be eligible for assistance. And DVC will be visiting our school on Thursday, February the 8th, for a student presentation that walks them through every step of the 12-step registration. So please tell your kids to look at Naviance and find out if they have registered for that visit. But once more, that's February 8th. March 19th is when we are going to have people coming in. Bring your pile of information that you're really struggling with to get into FAFSA. And just as a quick thing, I have noticed with some of the universities, some of them are requesting earlier dates than April 2nd. I don't know why they're doing this. We're having a hard enough time just letting people know it's April the 2nd. So those of you who have students that did early decision, please make sure you know these dates, especially if they're looking for early responses.
Perfect. Thank you. And I also wanted to thank Cora for joining us this evening and sharing this wonderful information and answering our questions. As she mentioned earlier on in the presentation, I will be sharing her email address with you if you have any other questions that you may have looming, we will be sharing the presentation slides as well as posting this recording on our Cal High YouTube. So be on the lookout for another email from us for all of the follow-up information. Thank you all. And any last thoughts, Kathy, Cora?
Nope, just tell your kids to keep reading their emails. We're sending a lot of really, really important stuff, and they have to see this is all going to be on their shoulders. We're trying, but they've got their part also.
Yeah.
And you know, this was a very short presentation. Again, that is not everything you need to know about financial aid, but all of the other websites that were provided at the end of the presentation. Good information to read, what's available, how to get it, different interest rates on the various loans. It is all on those websites.
All right. Thank you all so much, and we hope you have a great evening. Bye.
Thank you.